Welcome back, folks. Sport Federation TV. Again, we keep talking sport in the province. You'll remember, of course, we had Mary-Anne Sharwood was with us about 3 weeks ago now, Mary-Anne?
Yeah, probably a bit longer than that.
A little bit longer? Well, welcome back. It's great to have you back in the studio. I know that when we had you last, we were talking about the big women's regatta that was happening up at Kloof. How did that go?
It was a great weekend. We had really competitive sailing, and boy, they pushed us with a lot of races in over that weekend.
So, have you got results? I mean, have you got an idea what time did they? How long did it go on for? A lot of boats?
Yeah, so we have multiple races over 2 days. I think there were about 10 boats sailing, about 4 or 5 people on each boat.
Yeah.
It was won by Dominic Provia, who represented South Africa at the Beijing Olympics in sailing, with her crew, obviously. So yeah, it was very competitive.
Is that something that happens in sailing? Like if you're a winner or someone who wins competitions regularly, you're most likely to stay on top. Because I get the feeling like sailing, anyone can win on the day.
There's a lot of technique involved in setting your sails correctly, getting the most speed out of the boat. Tactics, it's very much a chess game on the water as the wind shifts, so you've got to be playing those shifts. So if you've got the background and the know-how, you're probably most likely going to always end up on top.
But why do I get the feeling that when you walk away from the race, like Dominic won your race, that the rest of the people who competed against her maybe don't think that she was faster than me, but she outsmarted me?
Well, there's a lot of outsmarting,
really?
as well as physically sailing the boat and setting the sails and steering in the right direction and all that. So, you know, there were other people who were up there and
Are the margins close?
Yeah, very close.
Yeah. Stud 23. Tell us about that.
So that's a small keel boat, a 23-foot boat that we normally sail with about 4 people on board. You know, it's mainsail, jib, spinnaker. But the thing about it is that all the boats are the same.
All the boats are supposed to be the same.
Yeah, all the boats. Well,
Who
they
checks?
pretty much
Who does
are.
the checking?
So there are class rules that specify what the boat has to, how it has to be set up.
Is there an umpire who measures things and checks things beforehand?
There are. So anytime you get a new sail, you have to have it measured by an official measurer who checks that it's within the limits. And certainly at big regattas, you can have measurers there that check all the boats to see that they are the same.
Right. Now you've got another one coming up, the dinghy regatta, also at Kloof.
Yeah, so next weekend we've got our Cape Classic series of regattas that happens at Siegefleet, Tjeerwaardes and Hermanus in the new year. And it's Tjeerwaardes' turn to run the Cape Classic regatta next weekend.
Right.
Where we have all different classes of dinghies coming to sail.
So when you're talking about different classes of a boat, so you won't see the Stud 23 type of boat competing there?
Yeah, Stud 23 is a keel boat, so it won't be there, but dinghies are 1- and 2-man boats and hobies as well. So also, once again, each class of boat is exactly the same. So you'll have the mirror class or the laser class or the hobies, and each boat within that class is the same.
Are the dinghies a little bit more accessible? It sounds to me like we always think of dinghies as a small boat. Is it a little bit easier, entry level?
They're more physical, so you know you can turn them over and then you've got to right them again. And in terms of accessibility, interestingly enough, the Stud 23 is probably cheaper to buy a boat than to buy a laser. So
a laser being a dinghy.
A laser being a one-man dinghy.
Yeah.
But obviously it depends on the age of the boat and all that kind of thing.
With the dinghy regatta, are you expecting big names also to pop out?
Yeah. So the following week up in Val Dam is the Youth Nationals. So all the youngsters will be practicing for Youth Nationals at this regatta.
You mentioned to me just before we came on air, you spoke about the 75th anniversary.
So South African sailing is turning 75 years old. They're having a huge number of regattas. They're trying to have a media storm going over the long weekend of the 16th of December. A lot of the focus is up at Vaal Dam, where they've got youth nationals happening, a whole lot of other national championships, plus other regattas happening. So trying to get every single boat in the country on the water that weekend.
In the Vaal.
So the focus is on Vaal Dam, but for those that can't get up to Vaal Dam, all the other clubs are also having regattas to celebrate that. I know Royal Cape is doing trying to get 75 boats to sail around Robben Island that weekend.
Wow.
We're having a regatta with Stat 23s, and then the 420 dinghies are having their national championships at Chiavadas that weekend.
So this Christmas, over the holidays, I mean, when people generally think of its closing up time, we're going on holiday. For you guys, it's activity time.
Yep.
So what's happening over the new year? I'm picturing, you know, when you're going on holiday, not that I ever go on holiday, but when you go past the dam, there's always a boat on the water. Is that the kind of stuff that you're expecting? Is it going to be organized? Or is it all social?
Yeah, so up at Chiavadas over that period, obviously a lot of people come and have their holiday at the dam.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of social stuff happening, but we're also going to be having, between Christmas and New Year, we'll be hosting the Stat 23 Western Cape Championships over that time as well.
Okay.
But then we all stay up there, and it's quite a nice regatta because we only start sailing at 2 in the afternoon when the wind comes up, and it stays light until late, so we can get 4 or 5 races in a day, and then we party all night. So.
Well, I was going to ask you next. Is it quite a social environment? I mean, I would imagine people, or is the mornings all about preparation, or is it relax and be a bit more social?
No, we tend to relax and spend time with the families in the mornings, and when we're off the water, it's very social, and on the water, good spirit, but competitive.
Then it's war. Yeah. How do I join? If I want to join and get into this sailing fraternity, what's the best way to get going?
So I would say go down to one of the sailing clubs. There are quite a few around Cape Town and Western Cape, and knock on the door and say, hi, I want to come sailing. And there's also some sailing academies that teach sailing, so you can go and do a course on sailing. We've got one up at the Chiavadas Sailing Academy up at Chiavadas. They run courses and have boats that you can use, so that's a good way to get in.
Looking forward to then finding out more about the Classic, the 75th anniversary, and of course the Dinghy Regatta happening next weekend at Chiavadas Club.
Cool.
There we go. Mary-Anne Sharwood from Western Cape Sailing, folks. Well, as you heard, Sailing South Africa this year, 75 years old, and I believe it is on the 16th of December. Every water, anywhere you see water on the 16th of December is going to have a boat on it, all in part of the celebration of the 75th anniversary of Sailing South Africa. But get down next week to Chiavadas Club and go and watch the Dinghy Regatta. Very exciting. And there's always a club near you. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll carry on talking about sport in the province. Don't go away.